Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
The record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
15th day of December 2017. Today will be the last show for the year for the Record. So those of you who have something to say and you want to say it on For the Record, today will be your day. I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands into your places of work, whether you're working in an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they rise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orit Connor. My two co-hosts in the studio with me this morning, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Dr. Steve McField. So we have Ms. Teresa back in the saddle again with us as well. You're welcome to join us in the conversation every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. Normally, it is that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You won't hear much of that today because she's under the weather a little bit, but she's recovering well. You'll soon hear that beautiful radio voice again, and that is why you heard a substitute for her this morning at the 7:29 slot. So you're welcome to call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Of course, if you don't like to talk on the telephone, you can email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. And additionally, we have our WhatsApp number, which is 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice message as well. So without any further ado, this morning I'd like to introduce my two co-hosts and say good morning to them, and welcome back, Miss Teresa. We certainly missed you, and we know people out there missed you as well.
See, morning OC, good morning my good friend Dr. McField, and good morning to the wider Caymanian community, locally and in the diaspora. And this is why I don't tell OC none of my business anymore, because, next thing I know, I am, accosted someplace and people say that I did this or I was that place or
you didn't
whatever.
show up. You didn't show up on the show.
That's why I can't tell you nothing, Mr. OC. But if you don't mind, what I'd like to do this morning is some public service work to the extent that it involves quite a number of Caymanians. So as I mentioned some time ago, the students that graduated in 1977 from the Cayman Islands High School, we're trying to organize a get-together, which would be our 40th anniversary. Yesterday evening, we were at the Yacht Club making some plans and stuff like that, and it was such a refreshing and engaging experience because we all knew each other, those of us that showed up for the plan. And we know all the foibles, all the eccentricities. You know that when Pat slip her lip to the side, that she don't want to talk no foolishness. And when Gina rolled her eyes, that's Gina Petrie and Pat is Pat McField. We know that we're down to business. And as for Moliturgis, that is Ingrid now Ebanks. She was there for business in her quiet way. Brenda, who is normally there, I think was a little bit under the weather. So I'd like to say a shout out to Brenda this morning and hoping that she's feeling well. And in a nutshell, what we're trying to do is to organize the reunion, like I said, and it's scheduled for the 20th of January. The 20th of January. So can I invite as many persons as possible who graduated in our year to contact either Ingrid at 927-2694, 927-2694, or Brenda Archer, 916-1811. Again, 916-1811. And we're going to try to make it a very memorable experience, a very fun experience. So again, and we also have a Facebook page. And if you go to the Facebook page, please like it. And please get in touch with us as soon as possible, because we can't wait until the last minute before we make all the final plans. And Pat, Gina, Ingrid, and I, we made the first down payment for the venue yesterday. So we've already committed to this by investing with our own funds to try and make sure that, we secure the place. So please try and contact us. And thank you very much for giving me that opportunity to share that.
So we give you a little freebie here once in a while.
Yeah, thanks.
Doc, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Mr. For the Record, and good morning to a co-host, Mr. Pitcairn, and good morning to all of the For the Record listeners locally and those that listen abroad, New York and Texas and all over Argentina, and even in Europe. You have a great fan base, Mr. For the Record man. Yes, unfortunately for me, our show ends today for the year 2017, and for me it doesn't end on a good note, because I believe that this is the most saddest Christmas that I've ever had in my life at all. When I think about all of the people out there whose expectations will never be met and have never been met, and that grieves me as I leave today, and my voice will not be heard again probably until next year, and that's a long time for some people. Even a day is a long time for some people. And I remember people like Miss Georgette, who calls in all the time about the people who are homeless and sleeping on the roads, sleeping on the streets and stuff, and that makes me very sad this Christmas. And I remember the Christmases when I was very young, how I went down into Shaden Road, Georgetown, as it was then, down to Mary's and Dr. Roy's, and look at Santa Claus, and he was always shaking his head, saying, "Yes, there's something for you too. You are going to get a present." That's not so today. There's no presents for some people. There's only poverty and more poverty and despair, and that makes me very merry. That makes me not merry, and there's nothing merry about me this Christmas, I can tell you. So if I'm grumpy, it's because there's nothing merry about me this Christmas.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I am not a great fan of Christmas either. It sort of depresses me also, and maybe that's probably why sometimes I sort of like think I can run away, from it. But yes, in this life, we all have our challenges and everything else, and sometimes when we think that the challenges that we have are insurmountable, or that they're so great, and when we look at other people out there who have so much more important challenges, some that are life-threatening, then it gives us time to reflect and say, I really think I have a problem? No, I don't have a problem. Look at that man out there. Look at, what he has to endure as well. But that is something that we all have to live with. But yes, those persons who are less fortunate and have to struggle, and it shouldn't. We shouldn't be aware of what's happening to them, and we shouldn't be committed to doing what we can to help them just in the Christmas time.
Yes.
It should
that
be
is
all year
very
round.
sad.
Yes, it has to be all year round. I want to read something. This is a little bit on the political side. I sent it to you, Miss Teresa, and I didn't get a chance to send it to Dr. Steve Macfield. I sent it to you by WhatsApp, and I don't know. You don't have WhatsApp yet, Dr. Macfield?
Yes, I
You got
do
your
have,
WhatsApp?
yes.
Okay, well we
I'll send it now
we got
to
to
you.
link you up with the WhatsApp. Yes,
Send him this.
and this came from Mr. Billa Adam, and I want to thank him for it as well. It's political, but it's political reality as well. And the article says Prime Minister Skerritt, that's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt of Dominica, was in France today complaining of the complexities involved in procuring funds and the quote-unquote slow pace of disbursement by the international community. When will he understand that responsible governments will not distribute or disperse funds to countries with less than complete transparency and accountability? In short, we can say goodbye to those pledged millions until such time as the assurance is given to the international community. The problem, Mr. PM, is not with the procedures put in place to protect the citizens' tax dollars, but rather with countries like ours that refuse to promote clean, accountable, and transparent governance. I think that letter or article says a whole lot in terms of governance, transparency that is required by people who give money these days, people who pledge money. They want to see where it's going. And I think I may have mentioned to some of you, or someone I mentioned it to, the fact that there was over probably close to $2 billion that the former ruler of Nigeria, president of Nigeria, Sani Abacha, had stolen and had deposited into Swiss accounts. They originally, I think, got something like 700 million back, and the Swiss government is in the process now of giving back to them an additional $300 and odd million. But they're giving the money back with conditions, and the conditions are that they need to see what is in place to ensure that that money goes directly to the people, that it is not put back in the government coffers and then stolen by other corrupt politicians again. I found it a little disturbing, the fact that, you know, I have put my money, even though the Nigerians didn't voluntarily put their money in the Swiss account, but the money was there, and now the Swiss can dictate
Yes.
how it is dispersed. But at the same time,
yes.
I understand and I appreciate the motive behind it, which is to ensure that governments receive it. I'd like to hear some comments from both of you. Oh, we have to take a break first, and then when we come back, I'd like to hear some comments from you. I believe we have a caller too, do we? One caller. Caller, we'll be back to you in 1 second. Please stay tuned. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. As promised, we're going straight to our caller. Caller, good morning. Thanks for waiting.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Risa.
Good morning.
Dr. Markfield and OC.
Good morning,
How are
sir.
you?
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Yes, I have just 2 comments to make, and then I will hang up, and then you guys. First of all, I want to say, Mr. Connor, that you and your panel have enlightened the Cayman Islands so much with so much information. And I wish that we could give Dr. Markfield another 150 years on the Cayman Islands to live with the knowledge. I don't know how he can hold it, but I want to congratulate him and Mr. Risa as well, and you, Mr. Connor, for bringing this show to the Caymanian public.
Thank you.
Number 2, we're talking about Christmas. I drive around. I can't walk no more. I can't get a job. Not able to, but I drive around and I talk to a lot of Caymanian people, and we have a lot of people out there hurting for Christmas. I myself have bills I can't pay because I'm not getting enough to take care of that. But always, I have seen a few nights ago, down Pororine, there was a young man on a bench lying down by the KFC, right there by Marin's old place. They're lying down, and the rain was beating on them, and it was blowing, and it was cold. You know, our government, we could do something to help those people. When I drive around Georgetown and I see all of the smiling faces, I don't see no Caymanian. I see foreign people smiling and enjoying the life in the Cayman Islands, but the Caymanians themselves cannot enjoy the life. And I really doubt, I would pray that it would get better in 2018, but I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. We all are on the island now. We have aggressively in driving or attitude. You drive in, they're blowing behind you, they overtake you, and
That's right.
and they stop right in front. They ain't going anywhere, but they stop right in front of you. They even passing you on the opposite side of the road that you're not to overtake. I mean, when I was growing up, I remember Mr. Jamarch, especially, he used to have one Studebaker, and when we would go for a little drive, he said, "Come, let me take you out for a little drive." We would enjoy that drive. We would look around and drive normal. All of that is gone. I'm fear driving on the road nowadays because of the aggressiveness and the way that the people are. But I hope that, Mr. Connor, next year, with your panel there again, you could enlighten the Cayman Islands more and keep it Cayman.
We certainly will. Caller, I have a question for you, though, because we do get, Mr. Georgette really is a strong proponent for the homeless as well. But when you say you hope that the government can do something for them, and I think more than the government can do as well, there are others, civic organizations and stuff like that as well that can also assist. But in what form of assistance are we looking for? Do we get out there? Do we try to talk to those individuals, find out exactly what their problems are, and then you can address them? Does it mean pumping money into it, going out there, giving them money? What help do you suggest?
No. Not only giving money. The government, because I know certain places that I went in the world, that the government has places for these people. They don't really hand out money to them, but they supply them with food and a decent place to sleep and take a good shower. You understand what I mean? And a lot of these people that I talk to, trust me, they are all Cayman and they are depressed. They gave up in life from early years because of the same system. I'm going to finish, hang up now, but I if you go, it's on the northwest, I think it is, 1981, you would see myself as a police officer and Mr. Gilbert McLaughlin. Also with Joyce Hilton, we were up and down. We done so much for the disabled people. I even designed a sign. It's right there in the Northwest in 1981. And what they are promoting now, we done that from 1981 along with Miss Joyce Hilton. She was a big advocate for that. And when they were earlier this year, anybody wanted to join the disabled council, I applied because I had did this before. And they didn't even have the respect to tell me, I'm sorry. And nobody even called me. And I applied for it, although I walk with a cane, but it's nothing that's wrong with me. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, you all have a blessed Christmas. Everybody in the Cayman Island drive safe. And let us pray for our island. We need to pray for our island. And that's why so many young people I talk to is going away to England and other parts of the world and getting jobs immediately as they go up there. Because everyone telling me there is nothing for us here to do.
Okay, caller, thank you very much. We want to ask you to leave us there because we want to try to accommodate one more caller before we go to our 8 o'clock news. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Marfield and company.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
First, I just hope that everybody have a merry, good Christmas and focus more on the reason for the Christmas and not all this material things of what it can give me, what I can get, and all that, you know. Is they're leaving Christ out of it completely almost. You understand the clause? One of the main things I want to say is to just, when they're having all the celebrations, big politicians and church ministers, remember the many Caymanians who are in need of a job. We have 24,000 work permits, right? Is that about right?
Somewhere in that neighborhood between 26,000, yes.
Yeah. That means that every month, right, should have good over 2,000 renewals, right? That means every week you should have 500 to 800 at least renewals in the papers for people with jobs. They're not even advertising anymore. Caymans do not even have a chance to see what is happening. And it's all the fault of the politicians and the ministers of religion who are encouraged not saying anything. It's their congregation, most of them. I want to remember all the 5,000 or so Caymanians affected by this at this Christmas time, and some of them can't even get something good to eat because of their greed and corruption selling out the island to people instead of letting the Caymanians first be employed. Right? I thank you all very much. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much as well. We have about 1 minute to go. I just want to say those historical vignettes that Radio Cayman does every day. I really enjoy those, and I want to encourage management and everyone else to continue. Give us more of those. Give us more of those. Radio Cayman has a huge audience out there, and people want to do that as well. It's now 7:59. This is a time checked by Priced Right. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In studio with me this morning, my two co-hosts, Mr. Risa Pitcairn and Dr. Steve McFeel. This question I asked so long ago, we probably forgot what I asked now. But we spoke about the donations, contributions from the international community to help those countries in the Caribbean that were ravaged by the hurricanes a few months ago. And the fact that governments in making contributions want to ensure that those monies are well spent. This discussion all took place at a conference in France that is taking place now, and it has to do, with the one planet concept and the whole issue of climate change. Which, before I ask that question again, when Mr. You listened to the talk that I had on the Antiguan radio station, and one of the questions that was asked of me was whether or not the issue of climate change arose during our elections here. And I didn't answer it directly. I basically talked more about the fact that we had established these environmental zones, and things of that nature. But climate change really, really didn't come up. Now we see here where the industrialized countries, the so-called industrialized countries, are expressing their concerns about climate change, and most of the third world countries are the ones that are going to be greatly affected by that. They're talking about improving resilience to hurricanes and other natural disasters. But also what we need to recognize is that the quote-unquote underdeveloped or undeveloped countries are the countries that have most of the natural resources. They're the ones with the forests still. They're the ones with the rich fishing grounds and everything else. So it is in the interest of the industrialized countries to ensure that those things are preserved, because they have already, a lot of them have already destroyed their own. But getting back to this whole concept of international aid and the transparency and good governance as far as the spending of money is concerned.
Well, I don't know what to say, because you raised a point before about how much money was stolen by who it was again?
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Sani Abacha.
How could a man steal so much money and nobody was able to detect that all that money was stolen? I thought that when you stole money like that from a country, you stole maybe 10, 15, 20 millions, but not billions of it. And you say they had already given back 800 million, and they were given 500 million more. I mean, I just can't fathom that kind of theft. And it goes to show, you see, that we always have to be vigilant when we have people and when we elect people and put them in power. And then on the other hand, that's on the one hand. On the other hand, it shows you how uncontrollable that their positions are, and that people just trust them to be able to handle all of their finances and stuff and things like that. But why should they give them money in the first place? Why should they give them money in the first place? I don't know. It seems to me that those countries who go begging, who goes to the European countries with their hat in their hand, begging on their knees, they that's the reason why they can have such stringent conditions, because they go on their knees begging, and they have been around for so many times, and a lot of them had independence for such a long time that they ought to have had some sort of nest egg in their for their people in their country, and especially being in the hurricanes in the hurricane zones, and they know that disaster will come. It's not as if it will come; it will come. It's only when, and they haven't done much. To me, they say they're not great leaders at all, okay. And I don't have much respect for them.
We have two callers. Let's go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, Mr. O.C.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Mrs. Pitcairn. It's Johan Moxham. I think the genesis of this conversation was an email or something that was read out by Mr. O.C. talking about the plight that Dominica finds itself in.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the part that I heard, so I'm definitely on track. But I just wanted to ask the question. It's unfortunate that any country has to go through the devastation of natural sort of disasters and hurricanes and volcanoes and all the rest of it, right? Like Montserrat and those other Eastern Caribbean islands. However, what should be concerning to us here in the Cayman Islands is the fact that I believe our own government committed $500,000 to Dominica. Now, again, the humanitarian effort and concerns that the Cayman Islands government has displayed and the leadership in these roles by the Premier in the recent spate of hurricanes, but also the contributions that we've made is commendable. However, I think there comes a point where we need to have an honest look at ourselves and say, before we commit resources to help friendly countries or neighbors or friends of friends, because obviously we did something as an act of good faith, we need to ensure that those funds that we give are dispersed accordingly, just like how the major nations are asking for evidence of how the funds are going to be dispersed, because we don't have a bottomless pit of money. And when you consider all the programs that are not being funded in the Cayman Islands because of the standard response of a lack of government funding, so on and so forth, we need to be a bit more conservative and a bit more stringent and consider how we go about trying to help our neighbors. It's great to send resources and manpower and so on and so forth, but when we're talking about cold hard cash and you see the international community now going, hold on, well, we need to understand where our funds are going. I think a tiny country like the Cayman Islands, which does not have a limitless amount of money, and has its own issues at home here in the Cayman Islands, we really, really, really need to consider and be responsible and respectful of our tax-paying public, and more importantly, the needs of our country, and ensure that we are helping people, but ensuring that the money gets to the people, but asking the question, we need evidence of what you're going to do with this money instead of just sending it on willy-nilly, because charity starts at home. So I think that locally or domestically, that is more relevant than Sani Abacha, who was the leader of a military junta, and those sort of leaders and African dictators. It's commonplace for them to steal that type of money. I went to university with Mr. Abacha's nephew, and let me tell you, the man had security that rivals the President of the United States and all of the toys that go along with it. So I went to university with one of the Nigerian Air Force generals that stole over £100 million, and these people can basically leave Nigeria, go live somewhere else, and nobody asks any questions. So I'm just saying there needs to be a greater degree of accountability, scrutiny before we start giving away Cayman dollars that should be used to help programs and people in the Cayman Islands.
Excellent point, caller. Excellent point. You have a great day too, and enjoy the holidays as well. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, Ms. Georgette.
Good morning, Ms. Teresa, and good morning, Dr. Steve Mack.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
This is Georgette. And I trust that all three of you are well and your family members are well.
Thank you.
And Ms. Teresa, I hope that your high school reunion will be most wonderful.
Thank you.
And as many of the graduates as possible will be there.
Thank you very much.
This year would have been the 70th anniversary, the 70th year since I graduated from high school.
Wow.
But unfortunately, there were 7 of us. Originally it was going to be 10, but 3 young women got married and moved away, so it went down to 7. And out of the 7, Mr. Stacey Solomon died, Armin and Davine Marion died, Pansy Thompson died. So now it's just Virginia Barton, who lives in U.S., and Mark Panton, that he spent some of his time here, and myself, just 3 of us left. So as I said before, Mr. Teresa, may God let you all have a most wonderful reunion.
Many
and
thanks.
Also, I would like to say, Dr. Steve, we have been good friends for many, many years, but you became an even dearer friend to me this morning when you also mentioned about the homeless people. Some people think that I believe the government should just go and hand out money to them. No, I want the 19 of them to get together and try to devise a plan that will get those homeless people off the street. It is terrible to think of it. It pains my heart, especially to hear of people out there in the rain. Thank you for giving me all this time. I'd better leave now before I get on my rocking horse. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Ms. Georgette. We're going to, we still have one caller. Caller, we're taking a quick commercial break. When we return, we're going to take your call. Please hang in there. Don't hang up on us. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. Going straight to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Thanks for being so patient.
Hello?
Hello. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, O.C. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I was listening to the news the other night, and they were talking about, I don't know if you guys have
discussed it, but I think we got to start thinking about it, because I think it's going to come sooner or later. But they were talking about this Bitcoin thing that everybody's like, not everybody, but a lot of people are making a big deal about it, and some people are using it, and already there have been disastrous things happening with people through the internet, ripping them off with millions and billions of dollars. And I hope that before anybody, do this, make this thing worldwide, because that's what they want to do. That's going to be the currency that you won't have. You won't have an individual currency. It's going to be a worldwide currency. And I fear the disaster that's going to happen when that happens, because you see, they already started putting in getting people in with this chip in their hand and put it in your forehead and all that kind of thing. And God spoke about that in the Bible. These things will happen. And I hope that we will stop adopting things we see happening in other countries. I guess eventually we're going to have to comply with everything, but the thing that bothers me is when I see, as George has just said, how we can millions or dollars to other places, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when I, myself, as she said, and as Steve was, or what's his name called and talked about how the poor people in this island, every single day of my life, gentlemen, and I don't have much to do it with, but I make sure that there's certain families that I go to, I give them stuff, and God has blessed me with that. But to see the number of people who are capable of doing things like construction work and whether it's laborers or what it is, but they got some abilities. And there's nothing that will make you give up quicker than when you know you have the ability to do things and somebody tells you, well, we don't have nothing for you to do, and then you see work permits coming in. Steve, I want to give it to you. It's something that I got from a foreign national that wrote me about a situation. There's someone here who is recruiting people from nations and what they do to these people. And I don't know if government has anything out there to, secure that situation. The thing is,
Caller, you're coming in muffled, very muffled.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I said we must do more for those who are less fortunate, gentlemen, because this is Cayman is getting rid of it. Look at this. I'll give you an example. In the 1970s, I remember when I came in, I was working with Doucette. They had, with Grandeur Construction and those guys, were paying $8.50 an hour. Now, with $8 for somebody who smoked cigarettes, you could buy 4 packs of cigarettes. Today, they give us $6.50, and it takes 2 hours' work to buy 1 pack. I'm only saying that not that I'm encouraging people to smoke, but I'm just drawing that thing there.
Yeah.
So what we have to do, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, is this. We got to stop being selfish. We got to stop looking after our own people. How can we have 24,000, as somebody else said, 24,000 work permits, and we got 2,500 people? You mean we can't find jobs for some of these people? Not everybody's lazy. That's the first thing you hear them talk about. Everybody's lazy. They don't want to work in this. They get that way when they get depressed. And they feel it. Look at Cookie. Remember Cookie used to walk around the street with the beer in his hand, stand up and talk to himself? Gave him a job up by Peanuts up there with the thing past earlier. The guy's been working there for months, doing good.
Okay, caller, we're going to ask you to leave us there with that. Thank you very much for that. That caller spoke about the fact that nothing more depressing than knowing that you have the skills and you see other jobs being offered. And I'm not saying using this as an excuse, but at the same time, knowing that you have the skills should give you that resolve also to and that fighting spirit to say, I'm going to get it, come hell or high water. I know, Miss Teresa, you want to say a few things as well. So
Yeah, but not when the door is just shut in your face and it's impenetrable.
you kick the door down.
Right.
That's what I did.
So
Yes. Hmm. Yes, that's what I did. And Kenneth came on here the other day. Mr. Ryan came and was saying it was my fighting spirit that people didn't like. And I had to remind him it was my fighting spirit that brought me from the bottom of Mayor Street to one of the best universities in North America and an honorable profession.
But did he say you didn't like it, or he said he admired your
No,
fighting
he said
spirit,
he
criticized it.
criticized it.
Really? Okay.
Criticized
Okay.
it.
That was
Yeah,
right
it's
over
my
head.
fighting spirit. You have to fight.
Yeah.
And I took no for an. I didn't take no for an answer, and I was out in the world, North America, on my own. I couldn't write home and say help to pay my rent or help money to pay my train fare. I know that they didn't have it, and I was on my own. And I was saying, it's no way that I am going to let another human being push me back. And I'm going to, when I see them with their briefcases and their good education and their good clothes and stuff, there's no way that that's going to happen to me.
Okay, Miss T.
So you have to fight.
I'll only say not all circumstances are the same. And I'll also say that that's why the Legal Practitioners Bill remains the bane in this community's back. And I won't make any further comment on that point. But to the extent that I was going to speak to the concern Ms. Georgette raised, and indeed what Steve was alluding to, it seems as though, our leaders don't take any note of those for whom the sun is rising. And by that I'm speaking about our youth and their future. But not only them, those of us that we've employed and we've kept them here at a minimum wage on which they can't live. And we're exacerbating poverty, not only endemic to us as a Caymanian community, but also to foreigners who are becoming Caymanians and came here out of a sense of poverty. And you're just developing and building two different tiers of poverty. And I'm wondering where that will take us in the future. The concern I also have, especially watching on Mr. Moore in the United States for the Alabama Senate, and I was glad that the American people actually got together, were mobilized, and they ensured that he didn't get, that there was a change because of the values that this man apparently has. But, and again, that's a point, because we will then choose anybody to lead if we think that that person can actually deliver on promises that will make our living a lot better. But in a democracy, it's popular people rather than competent, talented, knowledgeable people that get into powers of strategic importance. And leadership with a heart or that is sensitive, who are cognizant of those that are worse off, they somehow very rarely get to the top. And very likely those type of people tend to have a sense of integrity. And we don't seem to get them, for the most part, in leadership. What we get is the type that contributes to what I call predatory misrule. And they make a mockery of a national determination. And for us, we don't even know what that national determination is. And partly because with the form of leadership that you tend to have, that successive leadership without the vision, is that you develop a community that is functionally illiterate and easily misinformed. So
and misled.
Well, yeah. So and they trust the lies. They trust the lies. I mean, look at who we have leading now in the United States. So, those are some of the values that I'm really, really concerned about. And in recent times, I keep talking about those for whom the sun is rising.
We have two callers. Let's take one call. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, OC.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Dr. Maxfield. Morning,
Good
Teresa
morning.
Pekarin.
Good morning.
All right, I am coming to see you today. before you leave
promises.
Ireland.
You sound like a politician.
Yes.
Maybe in time to come. Listen to this. I want to thank you all for the knowledge and the power from the radio station. Today's your last show, right?
Yes, it is for the year.
I want the public to know that these guys are brilliant with knowledge. guess what, guys? I want you all to call in and big them up. They do not get paid for this show. They are just giving us knowledge out there for free, and we are thankful for them. Ms. Pecarin, I want to ask you a question. Don't get offended. Have you gotten a job as yet?
No.
Has the government answered your resume? Did you apply to government? Did they answer you with all your knowledge?
Can we
and
have
the
this
power that you
conversation
have?
off air?
No, I'm not calling off air. I want it to be known that you applied to government for a job and you have the knowledge and you need somewhere in that facility to be placed, because you all are brilliant. 3 people, 3 heads, especially Dr. Steve McFeel. You know what? He is old, he is not cold, and he has it going on. Let me tell you, he does not forget. And I want to tell Cayman, he is an icon of us. I look down on him and I respect him highly. I respect the both of you all too, but I think he should be
he's special.
Acknowledged for the job and the knowledge that he's given back to our people.
He's pretty special.
Yep, very, very special.
I want to thank you, Dr. McFeel.
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
thanking you personally from the Cayman Islands as a Caymanian, because I'm a Caymanian 100%. I thank you, I thank you, I thank you for all your knowledge. You know a lot about our island. You know a lot about our people.
Thank you, ma'am.
We are grateful to have you. Thank you, guys. OC, I'll see you later.
Okay.
Teresa, have a good Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
And
do
same
the
to
same
you.
as well. One more caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning. I'm not sure how this reception is going to come in because I'm calling from my vehicle.
Okay.
But I
Coming
want to
loud and
say-
clear. Loud and clear.
Loud and clear, Doc.
I want to say, as I listen to your conversation, that many of us don't realize this is psychological warfare that we are engaged in. And they try to let us believe when we demand our rights. They tell us all kinds of nonsense about we have an entitlement mentality. Well, I beg the question. If you are living in a jurisdiction in which you are a citizen and you don't have certain expectations and certain rights that accrue to you because you are a citizen, what then is the worth of being a citizen of that country?
Yes.
The second thing I want to say is that I found in this society from my experience, and I write about it in my latest book, that there is a fear of us who are black and intellectual. There is a morbid fear of us who are black and can think, because that is not the expectation this colonial society have of us. And the experiences which you are talking about, which people are having now, are no different from the experience I had when I came back with a master's degree, was poked fun at, called a car wash boy, and had to work in construction. But for the charity of people who owed me nothing, I would have been wasted if I wasn't mentally strong. So first of all, as a people, we have to realize what kind of war we are engaged in, and then we have to be mentally strong, and we have to lean upon one another. I think the strength of Dr. McField is that he is a role model. He's a character. He is irrepressible, and that's what I try to be. I refuse to let them dumb me down. I refuse to let them silence me. And my case is a textbook case because my educational qualities were wasted. But yet, when the University College was in trouble, whom did they seek to rescue it? And all those years of my youth, I could have probably have done much, much better, and it would have been much further ahead than it is now. I was spurned and called defunct and made fun of and poked fun of, but I refused to bow down. And I too, like Steve, aspire to be an exemplar and a role model, especially for the black and the downtrodden, but for all Caymanians who feel disadvantaged in this society. And that's my take on it, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much
for that,
Roy.
Mr.
Thank you, President Roy, and that is a good sign that you are still fighting and you are still healthy. And I do not understand why you are leaving.
It sounds like he's ready for another political career.
Sounds like you're ready for yes.
No, he has done an excellent job at UCCI, and Which reminds me that we know that there's a search, well, I don't know if they have a search committee or what, but we know that they're looking for a president. And I almost heard may have been here on Radio Cayman as well, some faint discussion about the fact that they may have to split the position and have a provost and have someone else who's in charge of administration or something like that. But you know when things like that happen? Things like that happen when they're trying to dilute the Caymanian influence. Mm-hmm. So they probably want to put a Caymanian in as a figurehead, as a token, and insert a non-Caymanian into the position of influence, So it seems as if that is what may be going on at the in terms of the selection of the UCCI. I'm just saying that I'm almost certain that I heard some talk about a provost and splitting it up. But we'll talk more about that when we return from this break. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I have a few emails, few messages that were received. This one, we moved on to this topic, but no reason why we shouldn't return to it because it is so important. This listener says there are homeless families, but they are less visible, but they still need help. A homeless shelter, soup kitchen would help. Although it sounds bad to say that in Cayman, where we claim to be so affluent, that we would need to have such things. Development and prosperity have bypassed a growing number of Caymanians. Poor education is the biggest cause. And as a country, we are simply accepting it and allowing the poverty to grow. But we need to remember that poverty equals crime. So the affluence grows. We can't simply leave some people behind. And then the writer says there are 3 good candidates for UCCI president right here and For the Record. I would say 2 good candidates, Ms. Teresa and Dr. Macfield, because if they want a bicycle riding president, I will have to conduct my presidency on a bicycle because that's what I plan on doing from here on. Talking to a prominent businessman, I won't call his name because out of respect, because you never know these days, people hear you talking to OC and then they may put you on that blacklist, which gives us to be in our discussion. We're talking about how come everything negative has to be black. They put you on a black list.
Yes.
They put you on a gray list.
Yes.
When you were on the ship, they blackballed you. Everything black is beautiful, people. Just remember that. Don't listen to the stereotypes that they give us. Black is beautiful. Black is beautiful. So, Getting back to the UCCI situation. Go ahead, Doc.
Just let me address the last thing about the poor people and so forth. One of the, I was speaking to one politician the other day, and he was telling me, McField, he says, that's the price we have to pay for development. Poverty, crime, and displacement. That's the price we have to pay for development. That's not the price we have to pay for the development. That's the price we pay for incompetent leadership. That's what that is. Mm-hmm. That's the price we pay for incompetent leadership because, as I sit here, it is Christmas time, and I was just reminiscing. I remember one time when there were no poor people here, and we didn't have the development then. There were no poor people here when we didn't have the development. And at Christmas time, when you hear Laksa coming in, and 75 or 50 boys and men coming home, it was happy. And once upon a time, I would say, when I knew every boy who reached 15 years old knew where he was going to work. He had a job. He knew that he had a job once he turned 16 or 15. He knew that he had a job. It was guaranteed to him out in the world. National Bulk Carriers or Southwell or Keystone Shipping Company or whatever it was, he knew he had a job. Can you imagine today when we had all the affluency and stuff that we have 27,000 work permits and you don't have a job in your own country? No. That's not the price of development. It's the price of lack of leadership in our country. That you have one of the reasons why we have so many poor people and people walking out in the streets and in the rain and don't have food to eat.
I didn't finish my story about the conversation with the businessman, and he was talking about his father and lived not too far away from you, and there was a discussion in the yard, and I don't know if you remember. So I'll tell it to you off air. But those days, many Caymanians and from all, I shouldn't say all sectors, but all strata of society, when people like you, Mr. Roy Borden, Mr. Gilbert McLean, came back to Cayman, and you came back with your education, you came back with a different view of Cayman, a world view. Many of you were referred to as educated fools.
That's
and
right.
The reason that they referred to you as educated fools was because they felt that you should be using your education to make money as opposed to trying to advance the Cayman Islands politically and socially as well. And he said he remembers this conversation, hearing this conversation, because he was outside playing football, but this discussion was going on, and his father was, so upset and referred to people like you as educated fools.
That's true. Mm-hmm. And then it went from educated fools to communists.
Yes, yeah.
And then it went to black power people, black power people. And that is the reasons why I had to be, not only me, but Miss Roy Borden, Gilbert McLean, and all the other colleagues. That's why we had to stand steadfast and fight the system and not let the system overcome us. Because we were lucky to have had we were not technicians, We had broad liberal educations. We studied all of the social sciences and the liberal arts, and we understood the system. And not only that, another one of us was Teacher McField too. Who was in that category. In fact, they took him out of the schools and sent him in the glass house where they could keep an eye on him and control him. So, I am so happy that I didn't succumb to those kind of things and those kind of wayward and deviant arguments that was put up against us. Well, I am not wealthy, I am not rich, but I can tell you one thing.
Rich in knowledge.
Rich in knowledge, because that's what I prayed for. Mm-hmm. I prayed for that. I asked the great Jehovah to give me knowledge and wisdom and understanding, because I understand that when you have knowledge and wisdom and education, that you have equality and it's the crossroad to equality, and that's my power, my knowledge that I have, that no one can take away from me.
Okay, one of our listeners wrote, and this actually came in on Monday, says, OC, do you remember when the granting of permanent residence was limited to persons, usually retirees, of good character, no criminal record, and sufficient financial means from legitimate outside sources to enable them to live in Cayman without working? Do either of you think, and that was addressed to you and me, Dr. McField, do either of you think that the slide into the present chaotic confusion began with the 2003 government's ill-advised, far-reaching amendments to the immigration law, which, amongst other changes, included opening up the path to permanent residence to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. We need to add Tom, Dick, Harry, and Jane as well, right? Who stepped foot into Cayman via work permits, whether or not they and their dependents, whether or not they and their dependents, trying to find it, whether or not they and their dependents would be able to survive in expensive Cayman without CIG/social service assistance, and or whether or not they have any talents, special skills, abilities, inclination or desire to contribute positively to the long-term benefit of these 3 tiny islands and people. It looks as if the saying is true. When you try to dance to everybody's fiddle, you will end up with 2 broken legs. With that, we will go to our headline news. When we return, we can discuss the contents of this message that we received.
Matter for the Record with Orit Connor continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. One caller, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, OC. How are you guys?
Fine, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. Yes, I have a question that I have for Mr. McPhee that he might know. I've been trying to find out now for the last couple of years. There's only a couple of people around his age that are around now. Anyway, Dr. McPhee, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, sir.
And good morning to Mr. Issa.
Morning.
Yes, Mr. McPhee, I can vaguely remember it was either in the late 50s or the early 60s that it was one of the ships that blew it up at sea, and a family in West Bay, I think, lost 1 or 2 members on that ship. Do you remember what year that was, sir? Or do you remember the name of the family?
I can't remember, but I remember the incident. The incident, and this gentleman that owns his wife owns the kitchen up in Gun Bay. What's this called again?
Miss Vivian?
Miss Levine's kitchen.
Vivian.
This Levine's kitchen. Her husband.
Her husband? What's his name?
I think her first name is Ray. I think his first name is Ray.
Yes.
Ray. He's written a story about that incident. But I know that Miss Katie, Miss Maud, his sister's son, Alvy Smith Jr. was on that ship. Got killed on that incident.
So you don't remember how many guys it was
several of them got killed, but I can't remember how many it was now.
Well, do you remember what year it was?
No, because I had left sea at the time. I had left this sea at the time. I was in Canada at that time when this happened.
Well, I had to be very young then, 9, 10, 11,
yes,
in early teens. But I remember it was quite a few Caymanian women. My mother was one that they wasn't too interested in any more their son going to national board for quite a while.
Yes, and
I think they made some connection with Miss Gwen to sort of be very careful and I don't know, but that's what was on the Mile Road.
Oh, I remember the ship now with the Petro Sinclair.
Okay,
yes.
All right, and you remember the name? You don't remember the name? I want to say the Groves, but I might be incorrect.
Yeah.
You may be correct there. That might be correct, yeah.
But it was the Petro Sinclair.
Anyway, Mr. Mark, we thank you so much for all the things that you've been telling on this radio, and the rest of the OC and the lady there. I think it's a very interesting program, and you guys keep up the good work and have a nice holiday.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. We have 2 more callers. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. Am I on?
Yes, you are. How are you?
Okay, thanks.
Season greetings to you.
I'm about to inject myself in a conversation I shouldn't inject myself in.
That's
because
okay.
It's got to do with Caymanian status, which I don't have. I've got PR. But I thought that maybe I could make a suggestion here. What is very clear to me is that, at least during the 14, 15 years I've been here, is that certain measures have been taken by government to try and deal with this issue of cultural drowning, if you can call it that, and even more importantly, the issue of work permits. Caymanians are unemployed, and while there's so many work permits are being given. So whatever it is that government has been trying to do up to this point to deal with those two issues clearly has not worked, or at least not worked to the extent that it was hoped. Now, how do you deal with this issue of work permits and PR? Some of the main problems have to do with this human rights thing, which came from the EU, which is, look, people can't stay in a place, I think it's 8 or 10 years, without having some kind of permanence. And because now government is tied into that, then they introduce rollover, which has worked to some degree, but is not quite producing the results that you want. What I would suggest, perhaps, to be able to deal with this is, first of all, to go back to the UK and the EU. We don't know where that is going to be with Brexit, but let us assume for now that these EU standards saying that after 10 years or so you must have some permanence there are in place. Go to the EU and the UK either by test case or go there by administrative opinion to say, give us an exception to this requirement that after 10 years people should be given permanent residence. If that is obtained, then you can come back then with freer hands to be able to say, yes, now that that exception has been granted, we can increase the period of time that you have to be here to get PR, or that PR doesn't have to lead to status grants, or that we want Caymanian status either temporarily or permanently to be limited to people who are married to Caymanians or those who are Caymanians by descent. Because now you've got more, like, in terms of room to be able to maneuver. Unless something like that is done, it seems to me that Cayman will continue talking about this and the results will not be there. And the last point I want to make is that, you see, when you get a position where one government comes in, it tries to do some good things, and some are good, but then it is not entirely satisfactory. Another government comes in and does certain things, but people are still not satisfied. The final result is that you might now get a more radical government, which might then do something really foolish, and at the end of the day, we shall all suffer.
Well, sir,
Billy, one question for you. In relation to the UK and the European Union's requirements, is it not just simply to ensure that there is a pathway, that it's an opportunity for them to apply to reside permanently or for status, as opposed to the fact that we don't necessarily have to give it because you have been here for 8 years, but at least give you the opportunity to apply? Because if we had to give it to everyone who was here for 8 years, then we would really be doomed.
Well, you see, I can't give you like the exact details, but what the EU says is that you can't keep people forever on work permits. They can't stay 15, 20 years for work permits.
I understand. But we have given them the opportunity to apply. Some get it, some don't. Those who don't get it, then simply have to leave.
Well, Billy, you still there?
Yes,
I completely disagree with you.
Okay.
I completely disagree with you.
Okay.
Our Constitution in Section 16 says that we have the right in respect to the entry into or exclusion from or the employment, engaging in any business or profession, movement or residence within the Cayman Islands of persons who are not Caymanians. And so when you come on a work permit, it says so, work permit. It does not say residence permit or status permit. It says work permit. And if you make the work permit for 3 to 5 years and no more, they have to go back to their country. All of that crap that you're saying is gone by the board. We don't have to do that. We don't have to go back to any UK or the European Union to do that. And if people would just go abide by what the law says. You come here with a permission to work. Just like I went to a permission to work in other countries. And I didn't have any right there. And for me to have a right, I had to leave the country and apply like everybody else to go back as an immigrant.
Okay, Billy, thanks very much for that.
I agree with you, Dr. McField. So I'm just saying that the advice which has been given in government is that you see the EU standards require that. So I actually agree with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Billy, for that. And just to add to what you said, Dr. McField, there was a time when the work permits stated on there that in the granting of this work permit, it does not in any way confer any right or any obligation on the government to either to renew it or to allow you to stay here to acquire any sort of permanency.
It goes further. It goes further than that. If you look at the entry form that you get when you come as a visitor, it says you're prohibited from soliciting or taking employment while you are in the Cayman Islands. That's a prohibition.
Ms. T.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it has always been very simple. People make independent decisions about where they're going to work. So if you're going to a country and you know what the limitations are, you know whether or not you have certain rights and so on, that person is required to make an independent decision. Right, and it's really clear, and it's always been very, very clear to me. And we saw what the Bermudans did the other day by including certain things in their constitution to address these issues.
What we have.
Exactly. So that is moot as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, we have 4 callers, and we want to give all of these callers a Christmas present by allowing each of them to express their views, but we're going to ask them to be as brief as possible as well. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
To everyone.
Morning.
In answer to the caller before Billy, the family, or one of the families that I'm aware of in West Bay was Miss Laurel Parsons' husband, Bretton Parsons. I remember I was in school in West Bay, what we call the Town Hall School then, and school was let out because of this explosion on the ship, because various families in the Cayman Islands were affected. And Miss Laurel later married Mr. Rudolph McLaughlin from East End. And some time ago, about 2 years, could be a little more ago, an article was carried in the Caymanian Compass where the Parsons daughters and their pictures was there, where they was tracing where the remains of their father, was buried. And they traced it that he was buried in France. So perhaps you might want to get a copy of that article that appeared in the Compass.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. And one of our listeners has also said that the name of the ship was the Sinclair Petra Ore. And he says, by the way, Mr. Honorable Linford Pearson was on it too when it blew up. And they believe that it exploded off Santos, Brazil as well. Let's take the next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, OC.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Steve. Good morning, Teresa.
Morning.
I ain't going to say much this morning. I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. And to all Cayman as well. And I do hope and pray that you all will be back as quick as possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's very, very, very good to listen to you guys in the mornings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We really
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you.
those.
Appreciate that too.
That ringing endorsement from you as well. Thank you very much, caller. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning to everybody there.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for giving us a beautiful year and letting us run our mouth. And I hope you'll find some more time to give us next chance at 9:30, Mr. OC. Don't you dare retire.
We're going to look at extending until 10 o'clock.
Oh, that's great. And I just wanted to say you all have a happy holiday and sorry to come back. And you're gonna be really missed. And I did a great job for the year. And I'm looking forward to see what this government can do for us next year, because this was a short year for them coming in May. So can't wait to see what next year is going to bring. So just wish Cayman a safe and happy holidays, and hope everybody will be okay and stop running, trying to get these gifts and getting in an accident. And all that foolishness. It doesn't worth it. Just
Yep.
remember the reason is Christmas.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
caller.
guys.
All the
Have a
best
great
to you
time.
as well. Season greetings to you. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, dear.
Morning, sir.
Very good folks, dear. And yes, it's been very informative, and we look forward to this so very much. Dr. Steve McFeel there, Miss Teresa, and your suggestion there about a new president coming from the crew there, the Three Musketeers. I like that. And we certainly hope it will be a Caymanian. I like that Dr. Roy had called in also and said what he said. I won't have to repeat it. It was the Sinclair Petrol, and that happened on the 6th of December, I think it was 1960.
Okay.
And Alvis Smith was the one that died, a Caymanian, and there was a Yugoslavian chief mate or second mate, I think, who also was missing from the who got into the lifeboats, and Tony Martinez, and I think that Mr. Mark Walton did write something in the that Southwell book, that wonderful book there. I think that should be instituted in schools for mandatory reading. And I agree so much with a lot of what you're saying there, Dr. Steve, all the year round. And I really hope that, as that caller said, that the show will go on till 10, maybe even 11 o'clock. And so we get an insight into what could be for Caymanians. And I agree with you 100%. Anybody who comes here, they come on a work permit. You came to be permitted to work. You didn't come to be permitted to live here forever. And I don't see why we have to give everybody residency or Cayman status because you're here so long. We have to get, no, it's if you merit it and the government sees fit that you merit it, I guess the cabinet and whoever the board, I don't know what they'll do in the future with that system. I do hope for one thing that work permits are taken out of the immigration completely and it be decided by like a manpower or human resources, if you want to call it. I hate that word, human resources. It sounds so clinical. Anyhow, but that's just my thoughts. Again, a very happy, peaceful, blessed Christmas to you all. And Happy New Year to you and your families, and a blessed, peaceful one. And let us hope that we start to put Caymanians first. Caymanians first. The names of the 29 men, it's in the book. I know it'll be too long for me to read it out, but there was only one Caymanian. It was Smith. But the others who were on the boat that are now dead, I think it's about 5 or 10 of them who are now dead, but that didn't die from being on the ship. Mm-hmm. But it's well worth reading that book, and it tells a lot. Certainly tells a lot. And again, a wonderful day to you all. And the show will continue on a longer period.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much, and all the best to you as well. I just decided to Google Sinclair Petrol, and then I didn't find anything, and then I put ship in front of it, and I found a site here that says ships built by Daniel K. Ludwig and National Bulk Carriers.
That's right.
And it gives the ship's name, the hull, it gives the year that it was built, the tonnage, the GRT, that is some kind of, I don't know if that's general something tonnage, and then you got a DW tonnage, which I think stands for deadweight tonnage as well. Gives the length and it gives the beam on it. So I'm going to peruse this a little further when we take a commercial break. And we also still have one caller, I believe, left. So caller, please hang in there. We're going to take your call as soon as we return from this commercial break. Good morning, and welcome back to For the Record. I found a little bit more about the Sinclair Petrolore, and it's on here it spells Sinclair Petrolore, and the hull number on the Sinclair Petrolore was 35. I hope our BRAC listener is still listening in. Hull number 35. It was built in 1955 by National Bulk Carriers in Kure Shipyard Division in Japan. The GRT, some type of tonnage, was 35,477 tons. Yes. The deadweight tonnage was 56,089. The length of the ship was 789 feet, and the beam was 106 feet 6 inches. And it says very large self-unloading oil ore carrier, engine made 1936. No, sorry. Very large self-unloading carrier, engine made 1936, fitted in 1955, blew up and sank December 1960. So that's information that we have on that. As promised, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. And I think you will have the distinction of probably being our last, we have two callers, so you'll be the second to the last caller for 2017. Good morning.
Good morning to you all. I'd like to express my gratitude for your invaluable contribution, all of you, to our community life. Without you, we would not be as enlightened as we are, and we would not be aware of our important history. Thank you so much for your contribution. It's been a gift all year long. May each of you enjoy your Christmas safely, and please remember to charge up, because you have a lot more to contribute. Cayman is better for your show. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. We have actually one more caller after this one, so this one is the second to last.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Well, anyway.
How are you doing? How are you enjoying your refurbished terminal up there? How are you enjoying it?
Mr. Reef. Wishing you all happy holidays, and looking for you all to come back next year. Enjoy every moment, and also with your family. Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful Cayman blessing.
Thank you very much, and all the best to you as well. You still there? Are you enjoying your refurbished terminal? He's gone. Okay. Next caller, last caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. You have the distinction of being our last caller for the 2017 year.
Yeah, morning, OC. This is Darwin. How are you doing?
Hey, Darwin. Morning. How are you?
Not too bad, but in morning, Mr. Reese and Dr. Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Darwin.
Yes. Just remind you, Steve, about being invited to our Christmas party at the Catboat Club next week, Thursday at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
And also, OC, you and Mr. Reese is also invited to our Christmas party at the Catboat Club next week, Thursday at 6 o'clock. At our beautiful Catboat Club, so make sure and come. You guys have plenty of food to eat.
Yes, beautiful location.
Yes.
Yes. So the both of you are invited. So make sure and come and come hungry.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, have a good one. And again, I listen to the show every morning, and it's of course very, very enjoyable. And you guys have a good day. And see you guys next week Thursday.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read a little bit more. It says Sinclair Petrolore was the sixth ship built by National Bulk Carriers in Kure Shipyard. She was rather unique. 56,000. I gave all those figures before. Self-unloading oil carrier. Again, the first tanker of that size launched. As she was also self-unloading oil carrier, she had a large conveyor boom stored on her main deck, which could be swung to either side to unload cargo, and this was quite a novel concept for the day. Sinclair Petrolore was one of a kind ship. No other ship like her was built. She was quite noticeably a Ludwig ship, suffering from the the severe lines, he advocated a skinny smokestack, low after-deck house, and a rather austere bridge structure. Ludwig allowed few things on his ships which could not carry cargo. Note that the Sinclair Petrolor also had an engine built in 1936, reconditioned and installed during construction, further illustrating Ludwig's reliance on surplus or reconditioned equipment to keep construction costs down as well.
Yes, and by the way, those were those were the largest ships at the time in the 50s that float on the sea, and they were manned by Caymanians, Caymanian captains, Caymanian chief engineers, second engineers, Caymanian crew. And when they were launched, Caymanians were the ones who went to the shipyard to see that everything was intact. The engines were intact, and there were many Caymanian engineers today. Some of them are still alive, who were the ones selected for the main voyages of those ships to test them to see that they were seaworthy, and that says a lot about Caymanians today, who can't even get a job in their own country now. And that reminds me, I met a young man the other morning as I was shopping, and he told me his name was name was Jackson, and he's a captain, I think, on Cayman Airways. And he was saying to me that it was Jim Borden who gave him a job when he finished his flight training, pilot training in the United States. And can you actually, and I want to leave your listeners with this, can you actually believe that Caymanians were given control of some of the most expensive equipment, airplanes that cost millions of dollars, and carried hundreds of lives every day from one country to the other, and were able to do that job successfully? Some of the best air pilots in the world, and now they cannot even get a job serving in a restaurant or working in their own country. That is the contrast. That is how far we have come down. We have fallen from. And I would just like to take this opportunity to say Merry Christmas to all of your listeners, for you. I know you can do it yourself, but for the record, and to my co-host Teresa Pitcairn and all her families and all of my families, my son, my daughters, my grandchildren, and all of my friends and my cousins, and every one of us, and everybody within my voice, try to have a happy Christmas this year. I know that a lot of us are not happy, but let's see if we can get the old Caymanian spirit and reach out to our neighbor and help a neighbor. If you know someone who is homeless or someone who doesn't have any food or clothing, do what we did best. We took care of our own. We didn't send our people to an old folks' home. They died with us. They lived. They born. They lived. They died with us in their own homes. And let us try to rekindle that spirit this Christmas, so that next year we will come back as better people.
Okay, Ms. T, I'm going to come to you in a second. Just want to, I'm fixated now with the Sinclair Petrolor. Got another message that says, good morning, OC. The question about the ship which blew up, Sinclair Petrolor, had 3 souls from East End. 2 survived, and 1 was deceased. The 2 surviving crew members from East End were Mr. Ray, that we were talking about before, Mr.
Ray
Vivian's husband, and the Honorable Linford Pearson as well. Now, I want to give credit for this, because the last portion that I read on it, it says at the bottom, created by A. Davis Whitaker Jr., and it was last updated on the 20th of February 2005. So if you know more about this, please inform us. You may have to hold on to it, for a while. That person's name is the A stands for Arthur Whitaker. It's on Arthur Whitaker's page, and it's created by him, and he has listed all of the ships that were built by Daniel K. Ludwig and National Bulk Carriers. He gives us the list of those that were built by welding shipyards in Norfolk, Virginia, and then he gave us the list that were built in Kure, Japan, as well. Ms. T, we know that you're not into the shipping thing per se, even though, you have those countries where women, you had women who were crew and officers and stuff like that, the Norwegians, the Russians and stuff like that, had them there as well, but give you an opportunity.
So as an afterthought, Mr. OC talks about women. And that was actually what I intended to do this evening, because if you leave it to Anne, and I know what I mean by Anna, we won't even believe that, we have issues that are peculiar to women. And I just wanted to close with a poem that I actually quite like, and I'm just going to share extracts from it. And I know that there's probably no single universal female Caribbean female experience, and because we're just different. But this is one of my favorites as we move into the new year, into 2018, and it's called The Bridge Poem by Kate Rashine. And there was a whole series of groundbreaking poetry with women going through issues and stuff like that. And it says, "I've had enough. I'm sick of seeing and touching both sides of things. Sick of being the bleep bridge for everyone. Nobody can talk to anybody without me, right? I explain my mother to my father to my little sister to my brother to white feminists to black church folks to the ex-hippies to black separatists to the artists, etc., etc. And then I've got to explain myself to everybody. The bridge I must be is the bridge to my own power. I must translate my fears, mediate my own weaknesses. I must be the bridge to nowhere but to my true self." This is one of my favorites.
Thank you, Miss T. Thank you, Miss T. I'm going back to Sinclair Petrol.
You see what I mean? This is what I mean.
As a matter of fact, we may have to cancel this whole Christmas thing and stick to the show.
Boys and toys.
It says, since Ludwig was planning to build much larger ships, he needed a bigger yard. Welding shipyard was only a small yard with a single building way, which was only large enough to build the 30,000 ton bulk petrol class ships. In 1950, he negotiated a lease on the former Japanese naval shipyard in Kure, Japan. This yard built the largest battleships ever built. Yamato, the battleship Yamato, and was big enough to build the mammoth tanker and ore ships Ludwig had in mind. Ludwig was able to lease this yard for 10 years with an option to renew for another 5 years. It became known as National Bulk Carriers Incorporated Kure Shipyard Division. His first ship was built and launched in 1952, the SS Petro Kure as well. And, I know you already had your closing comments, but Dr. McPhail, just relay to our listening audience again, some crew, almost complete crews, would leave Cayman and go straight to Japan to bring a ship out.
They had special crews for the maiden voyages of these ships. I know that one of the chief engineers of this ship was a gentleman from Savannah. He became a port engineer afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
He would
the tall tree.
Own the tall tree. Yes. He and other crew members his job was to see that all the engines and all the stuff below was working properly. He was what we call a master engineer, and it was him that brought the ships out on their maiden voyage from Japan to the United States. So they had special crew that they would fly. They would send and say, we want Mr. So and so and Mr. So and so, Mr. So and so, and they had the privilege to bring these ships out from their maiden voyages. That was a privilege, and that was a great honor for certain men to do that. I was on some of those ships myself. You call up one there, the bulk trader. I was on a bulk trader for many, many months, and one of my friends, now we're still friends, is the devil. Ivan Farrington was on that ship with me.
Okay.
And I recall my boss on that ship, when I went on that ship, was a gentleman from Cayman Brack named Marvin Ryan, who's deceased, and another gentleman named Arlen Reed. I think he's deceased also. They were my bosses. I'll never forget the morning I joined that ship as a wiper in the engine room. I was an apprentice in the engine room, and they gave me my coveralls, and they sent me down and told me to get a bucket of steam. To give a bucket of steam, and they had me running around in the room all day looking for this bucket of steam. and then the third engineer said, "Well, son, who sent you?" I say, "Mr. Ryan sent me to get the bucket of steam." He says to me, "Well, son, how full does he want the bucket, because you don't have a cover on it?" And they send me up, and I asked him to send me back down, and he said, "Let's put it half full." Then he says, "Son, just wait till I finish this." I was there all day. I didn't know what was going on. And it was only when I went to supper that evening that the whole mess room was laughing. And they say, "Macfield, they had you." I say, "What you mean?" And say, "Steam, son, is the vapors that turns the turbine's engine and make the ship go. You can't carry that in a bucket."
Only Caymanian would do that to you, right? Well, okay, last message. It says, to the hosts of For the Record show, thank you all for this year. You have been a source of information on our Cayman history. And this entire year, I have learned so much listening to this show. I wish each of you, every one of you, a blessed Christmas and a happy new year. Look forward to hearing from you in the new year as well. Folks, we want to thank you for all of your comments. We want to thank you for participating, for making For the Record the show that it is today. I want to thank management. I want to thank all the support staff. I want to thank especially Ms. Susan Watson, whom I have had an excellent working relationship with. We really click. We really click. I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or those who crave. I also want to encourage not only the government, but civic organizations as well. As Ms. Georgette has said, let's come up with a plan for our homeless. Let's do something for them. Don't assume that they don't want something done for them, that this is what they enjoy, this is the way that they want to be living, in a homeless situation. Let's find a solution to that. Let's ensure that every Caymanian who is able and willing to work has access to a job. The same way that we have to commit to the European Union, to human rights legislation and everything else, to ensure that people who live here in the Cayman Islands, work here for long periods of time, are given some opportunity, some pathway to apply for permanent residence or to apply for citizenship. Remember, charity begins at home. Let's do it for our Caymanians first. If we have an obligation to others based on international treaties and legislation, we have a moral obligation to ourselves. Not only a moral one, but Dr. Macfield will argue that we also have a legal one, because a constitutional obligation to our people as well. So I want to leave you with that today. I want to encourage you to continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. John Sterling, Dwayne Ebanks at 12 noon. I say to you, have a great Christmas holiday. Have a happy new year when it comes, and we will see you, God willing, in the new year as well. Thank you all. Thank you very much for making For the Record the show it is. It would not be so without you. I want to also thank our sponsors who have signed on to For the Record as well. And if during the course of our discourse we may have even offended some of our sponsors by talking about some of the things that they may be their companies may be involved in, as well. I'm not sure that we have done that, but I'm just saying that it is always done in the spirit of seeking to make a better Cayman for all. Folks, thank you very much. Have a great day.